Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to compare the Oculus Quest 2, seen here in white, with the original PC VR headset, the Oculus Rift S. The Rift S was an upgrade to the previous Oculus Rift and a fantastic bit of kit. I've unboxed and reviewed both these headsets previously. I've also compared the Rift S with the original Quest. And when the Rift S came out, I thought it was a wicked upgrade to the original Rift, and I thought it was superior to the Quest because of that PC connectivity. Now the Quest 2 is the newest headset from Oculus, and this is their current focus, so much so that they're planning on making the Rift S obsolete in the near future and supporting the Quest 2. The Quest 2 has a number of enhancements to it that make it superior to the Rift S. That includes an upgrade in the resolution. For example, the original specs on the Rift S seen here, 2560 by 1440 resolution with an 80Hz refresh rate. Now the resolution on the Quest 2 via a fast switch LCD panel is 1832 by 1920 pixels per eye, which makes it higher overall in terms of pixel count. It also has a 72Hz refresh rate as standard, but also is capable of 90Hz refresh rate, and that's an important point of note, is that it has a higher refresh rate than the Rift S. The Rift S obviously is a slightly different device because it required a connection to your PC to run, which made you need a decent gaming PC in order to run it, and it used a DisplayPort and USB connection. You can see those here. I did a video separately suggesting that this would be an issue if you only had an HDMI output on your PC or laptop, because you cannot use an adapter to go from DisplayPort to HDMI. It doesn't work that way because of the bandwidth. Now, I compared the Quest 2 with the original Quest. I've done a video separately on that. I'll link to those in the description, as well as the unboxing videos, so be sure to check those out. Both these headsets are wonderful in that they don't require a PC to run. They have integral internal hardware that allows them to do everything that the Rift S does, but without the need for a PC. However, you can use a PC, and a bit more on that later on. The Rift S and the Oculus Quest 2 both have inside-out tracking cameras. You'll note, as the same on the original Quest seen here on the left, that there are multiple cameras on the outside of the headset that allow it to see the room around you, as well as track the controllers in your hands. You can see them here, and they are brilliant, really well done, really versatile cameras. They use an interesting pass-through technology as well that allows you to see the real world when you're in the virtual ones, that you can press buttons or double tap on the side of the Oculus Quest 2 to get a view of the real world through the headset itself without taking it off, which is really nifty. Those cameras though mean that you don't need any tracking base stations. When I reviewed the Oculus Rift, I found the base stations to be frustrating because you had to have them in the right area and in a good space. The Rift S made it an improvement on that, in that you didn't need them anymore, and the Quest 2 carries on that wonderful tracking setup. Basically means you can put the headset on, map out the area virtually, and then play without any hassle. Those tracking cameras, as I said, can also be used to see the world around you, but they provide the Guardian border system, which basically means you can set up the room and your play space, map it out virtually, and then have a warning system pop up, a Guardian warning system, which is basically virtual walls that appear when you get too near the real world danger, as in places or things that you might damage. Let's say there's a mirror in your play space, or a window, or a door, or something like that, and you want to avoid hitting it. Quest 2 is also lighter, and I'm going to leave all the specifications in the description so you can compare them. But the Quest 2 is lighter, and it's designed to be able to be worn comfortably for a long time, and it has a very nice setup in terms of the visuals. As you'll see the difference between the Quest 2 and the Rift S. The Rift S seen here has a solid headband with an adjustable wheel at the back. You'll notice a Velcro strap on top, but it has padding on the front and on the rear. This headset design was supported by Lenovo at the time, and basically meant that you could easily adjust the headset and put it on and just roll this wheel. That was a fantastic bit of kit and a really good upgrade to the original Rift, and the Rift S made for a very comfortable headset. It also had a slight flip up to the visor as well, which made it easy to get out of the way when you needed to. The Quest 2 has been changed in that it doesn't have that same sort of head strap, although you can buy aftermarket accessories now. There are a lot of different accessories for the Quest 2 that you can buy extra head straps with. One that includes a battery pack so you can make it last for longer, and I'll talk about battery life in a minute. But you can see it basically uses a single Velcro strap on top and then these tightening and tensioning systems at the rear. Now, this is still comfortable to wear, and it is actually quite easy to fit as well. You basically pop it on your head and adjust these so that it is in a good position. And one thing I noted with the Quest 2 that's superior to the Rift S and the original Quest is that the fitment is a lot better, at least for me personally. I found it fit on the face a lot nicer. It's not as heavy, but also it just sits closer to your face and blocks out a lot of the external light that's coming in, meaning you get a much more immersive gaming experience. You're no longer seeing light coming through from the rear, which I saw a lot of, either through the back of the eye or like toying towards the lenses that would then interfere with the gaming. You'll also note that you can flip up the visor on this slightly so you can adjust it so the headband moves, and then you can get the visor up out of the way so you can see the world around you again. On the underside you have a volume adjustment wheel. You also note USB-C charging. Now, battery life, they say that you can get between 2 and 3 hours of battery life out of this headset, and I have managed that. And it has a USB-C charging cable that you can plug in and charge. So you can keep gaming for quite a while, and then you can also use Oculus Link that I'll talk to you about in a minute. Another thing they've done with the faceplate is that you can take the faceplate off and you can clean that. There are also accessories from other companies, and I'm going to be doing a video on this shortly, where you can get additional faceplate setups for a more comfortable fit and also to keep it clean easily. So this thing obviously gathers a lot of sweat if you're using it in a quite fast-paced game, but it is still cleanable and nice and comfortable to wear. It also comes with a glasses spacer system that basically gives you a bit more depth to the headset. If you're wearing spectacles, then it's not as much of a problem and it's still a comfortable fit. The next thing to talk about is IPD adjustment. IPD is the distance between your pupils, and that's how you set it up to get the best vision within the gaming world. Now, on the original Quest seen here on the right, there was an IPD slider that you could slide around and it would adjust the lenses in and out, and then you can adjust that to set it up the way you want it and get it at the right level for you. With the Quest 2, they've changed things up slightly. Rather than being able to manually adjust incrementally what the IPD level is, you choose between 3 different levels that can be set by just moving these in and out. That changes the levels between 58mm, 63mm and 68 as the maximum. Oculus says that one of these 3 should be suitable for something like 90% of users, and most people won't find it a problem. I personally didn't have any issue with this, although I didn't like the system where you basically have to put your finger inside the headset while it's on to then be able to adjust it, and it was a bit uncomfortable and a bit odd. I don't know why they've done that, but the difference is this is a dual display setup, whereas the original Rift S used a single panel. The IPD adjustment on the Rift S was done by software, so you had to do it inside the Rift S software and adjust it like that, and that was a gripe for many people because it meant that it wasn't manually adjustable and also could only be adjusted in certain levels, which presented problems if you had really high IPD or a certain really low levels. People were finding problems. Again, I didn't have an issue with it, and I haven't really had problems with it personally, but some people were complaining online about it, about there being a problem with this, because you can see you can't adjust it. There's no manual way to adjust the lenses on the Rift S. Still, both of them deliver a really good visual experience. Obviously, the Quest 2 is superior in terms of graphics because it has a better pixel count and a higher refresh rate, and I'll talk a bit more about that later on. Both of these headsets also offer this intelligent audio system where you don't need to plug a headset in to use it. You can basically have these rear firing speakers on the arms of the headset that fire audio into your ears. The Quest 2 has a spatial audio system as well. You can plug a 3.5mm jack into it, and when I used the Rift S, I also used a USB wireless headset. I used the SteelSeries Arctis Pro wireless that was connected to my PC, so it's possible to just put that on over the top despite the chunky headband. And you can see me fitting it on there, and that's possible to do that, although you can't plug a USB connection into it, but that does mean that you do have the option to potentially use another headset if you're using the Rift S like this. Now the Oculus Quest 2 is obviously much easier to wear a headset on top of because it just has those soft material straps, so it's really easy to pop a headset on top of that. It also has a 3.5mm connection, and there are accessories from Logitech, for example, that are released new earphones that have short cables, so you don't even need to worry about extra cables getting in the way. The Rift S has these original black controllers, quite skinny looking controllers. You can see the tracking rings around the outside at the top. They use AA batteries, and they basically allow for easy movement and tracking of your hands thanks to the inside-out tracking cameras. I never had problems with these, and the batteries lasted long enough and sufficiently. I also found them fairly comfortable. One thing of note is that they have improved the battery life, or at least that's the claim from Oculus with the Quest 2 controllers. The controllers have been redesigned and rethought out, and the number of tracking LEDs around that top loop at the top have been reduced in order to increase the battery life, and they say it will last 4 times as long as those on the original Quest. And the original Quest controllers were very similar to the original Rift S controllers as well. It's a very similar and familiar setup. They use a single AA battery, and they have the same sort of layout to them. So if you're familiar with the Rift controllers, you'll be familiar with the Quest 2 controllers. Now, to talk briefly, while you're seeing the controllers being shown off in the background, about Oculus Link. Now, I said earlier on in the video that they're going to make the Rift S obsolete at some point, and that's because the Quest 2 not only has access to games via the Oculus Store, and that you can then download and onto the headset itself, but you can also plug in your Oculus Quest 2 to your PC using a USB-C to USB-C cable. As long as you have a high-speed cable or the official Oculus Link cable, you can connect it to your PC. You need to make sure that your PC meets the minimum spec requirements, but then once you've plugged into that, you can then run Oculus Rift games on your Quest 2 headset. They're running on the PC and then displaying on the Quest 2 headset, but it all works. So this basically makes a replacement for the Rift S with improved visuals and comfort and style, but also at a much more affordable price point and with the ability to play all the same games. Now, the thing I liked about the Quest 2 anyway, and the original Quest actually, was that there are a number of games that you can play that are of a similar quality to those PC VR games as well. Games that you've seen I've played on the PC in VR, for example, Super Hot, Arizona Sunshine, Shooty Fruity, things like that, they can be played on the Quest 2 and not even without a PC. So it shows you the level of processing power that the Quest 2 has, that it's able to run similar games to what's already on PC, but without a PC. Now, if you tether it with a USB-C cable, you can play all the Rift games. You can play a lot more games. There are 200 games as standard and upwards on the Quest 2 that are available to purchase, but if you plug it into PC, you can get access to thousands of games potentially that are available and usable on the Rift and the Rift S, and those can be acquired and used through the store, the Oculus Store, or you can use them via Steam VR. So you not only have the wireless freedom to play Quest 2 games, but if you plug in and use it in wired mode on your PC, you can also play a hell of a lot more games, including things like Half-Life Alyx that I played recently on the Quest 2, even Project Cars 2. And the other thing that's going to change as well is, I said earlier on in the video that the Quest 2 supports 72 Hz refresh rate to begin with, and it has the ability to run at 90 Hz refresh rate, which means that you can get a much smoother gaming experience. However, that does require game developers to implement those, and once that's done, and you can then play them via the Oculus Link, or you'll be able to play them on the headset directly itself as well. Now, this makes it superior to the Rift S, which only had an 80 Hz refresh rate, so with improved pixel count and a better refresh rate should lead to a smoother gaming experience at a more affordable price point, although obviously you need the PC to run it to get the best out of it. There are numerous different accessories that you can buy from the Quest 2 to make it more interesting, but as standard it also has hand tracking, so you can track your hands in there. So there's a lot of interesting software updates that are coming in the near future, and they'll be constantly improving the Quest 2, and then eventually the Rift S will become obsolete. The Quest will probably become obsolete as well, but you'll still be able to play the games from both of those on the Quest 2, so it's well worth looking at and well worth considering as a headset. Hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you found it useful, interesting, hilarious, or all of the above. Be sure to check out the description for other information you might find interesting, and subscribe and watch these other videos as well that I think might be useful to you, and have a great life.